hello, and welcome back to The Fostered. I am your host, Angel Foster. And today we have a very, very special episode. I just finished editing it, and listening back through it for the second time is just like so great to just soak up all the gems that Mr. Shabazz Larkin drops on us in today's episode. I really think you guys are going to enjoy this one. He gets really deep into creativity and parenting and his meditation and wellness practices in a way that is just honestly just so transformative to hear and like just really inspiring. So I definitely feel like you are going to get a lot of value out of this one. I don't want to even keep you from it too much longer. So here is my conversation with Shabazz. Crystal clear
Does it
now.
sound crispy?
Yeah,
Crispy? Do I
super
have that
crispy.
crispy voice? I'm going for that super crispy.
That's what it's given.
All right.
Shabazz mother effing Larkin.
Oh, I
Welcome
get an explicative in my name. It's the first time in life anybody's ever put an explicative in my name. Please continue.
Welcome to the pod. I am so excited to have you here. How
Yo,
are
happy
you
to be
doing
here.
today?
Man, I'm feeling $100. I'm
I love
feeling
that.
$100. They need to make bigger bills. I'd feel it, but 100 will do.
I love that so much. So, as you know, we had your wife on, Ashley Larkin. If y'all have not listened to that episode already, please go back, give it a listen. It was probably my favorite episode we've recorded this year.
Big
But then,
shoes to fill. Sheesh.
then Shabazz was like, all right, I got to come on the pod. So, I'm just so happy to have you on. Yeah, and I'm just ready to get into it if that feels good to you.
Yo, let's definitely get into it.
All right. So, I like to start each conversation off by asking, what is your story?
What is my story?
Yeah.
And I know this about you. And I didn't come prepared with the answer to this question.
I don't want you to be prepared.
What is my story? We live 1,000 stories a day. And I think that really accurately describes how I feel about my stories. I think that I sort of, I as a young man, growing up in Norfolk, Virginia. My father was a Navyman, and he traveled around the world. And so oftentimes it was just me, my mother, and my siblings. But in that little tiny house in Virginia, I used to draw pictures a lot. And it's interesting because my kids are they're sort of just going to, like third grade and stuff. One of my second kid is going into first grade. And it's the time in first grade is where I remember doing a presentation in front of my class and telling everybody I wanted to be an artist. And in fact, I told people I wanted to paint portraits. And it's really bizarre that still today, that's still my passion. That's still what I want to do. And it is what I do, you know? And so, but it took a very peculiar way to get there. The road to making art your livelihood is is tricky. And I'm still not even completely there yet, but there's a lot of like crazy turns in the road. I actually went to college for I went to college for advertising, to be an art director, and in Virginia. And I came out and I did that for like 20 years. And it's so bizarre because when you're in school, people ask you questions like, hey, what do you want to do in 10 years? You know what I'm saying? Those questions. And at the time, I just know that the only thing that I wanted to do was to work on the world's largest brands, making advertising seen around the world with some of the biggest agencies in the world. This was what I would say when people asked me what I wanted to do. 2 years later out of school, I'm doing it already. So I'm above plan, 8 years above plan. And in fact, Technically, I was doing it while I was still in school because I had an internship working at Nike, where Wyden and Kennedy was just like, most creative agency in the world. I worked at Mother London. Mother is like, Europe's Wyden and Kennedy. And from a creative industry, it's just like working at these, colossal things. And I'm doing this right as I get out of school. And it's really challenging to a young man because you know when you reach your dreams like that, you realize that you didn't really know how to dream. And I remember turning 21 and coming to face with this truth. When I turned 21, I just remember, oh shit, i thought I thought I'd never make it to 21. I thought I'd be shot. I thought that I'd be in jail. I really thought that. I really believed that about myself. And I didn't really plan much past that. And so breaking across that threshold of 21, breaking across, fulfilling those sort of dreams that just a few years later that I had, I just realized my dreams weren't big enough. And so, over time, you know, uh, throughout this, the underpinning of my story is there's this spiritual experience happening, going in and out of churches and that being, my experience. Uh, but um, along the way on this journey, like somehow that sort of that spiritual, that Christian thing sort of fell apart from me. Like it didn't work as well as it did when I was 15. That's when I started when I became a Christian. And I realized not only that is like all the people that I thought were my friends really who were pastors of churches, these mega churches, and so these large Christian organizations really had nothing to say about the plight of black people, even the black ones. Just to be clear, like I'm not just talking, I'm not what you think. It's like the people just ignore the plight of black people, especially within these sort of religious contexts. And so it started to break down for me, even to the point where like I didn't know like what they were teaching my kids, and I was afraid what they're teaching my kids. And so I remember at some point like I'm spending all my time chasing money, chasing fame, chasing trying to be the biggest baddest guy possible, trying to be the biggest baddest creative and win all the creative awards. And I won all of them. I won every single advertising award.
Wow.
And and just because you reach your dreams doesn't mean you're going to be happy. Sometimes these dreams are fed to you, and these dreams are actually just small prisons. They
Yeah.
weren't my dreams. They were socialized ideas that were given to me about like what success looks like and what success feels like, you know. And so I had to really begin to put together what do I want success to look like for me.
Mhm. And
And it's
about what time did you I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but I feel like
Yeah,
I'm in
so
a
much
similar
impact. Okay, all right. Sorry, you asked me my story, so I just
Well,
went
that's
at it.
why I love that question because literally everyone approaches it so differently. And I feel like I could ask you, like, where are you from? What is this? But it's like, I think what's really so much more important is like the stories we're telling ourselves on a daily basis and
Yeah,
the stories that we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves. And so I think that's just like why I like to ask that question.
beautiful.
But yeah, I feel I relate to you so deeply on what you're speaking about as far as like one achieving success really quickly. I achieved so much last year. I got to travel a lot, and then left feeling at the end of the year like, wow, I went to Africa, I went to Paris, I got to do all these things I never thought I would be able to do, and then it happened all in 1 year. Like, so it happened so
Yeah,
quickly, and as excited as I was about that, I was just like, okay, well, what now? Like, what do I want for myself now? Like, everything I thought I
mm,
literally could not achieve. I never thought I could move to California. I never thought I could do any of these things, and then I did it, and it wasn't that hard. I think that was
yeah,
part of it too. And so it's just like you're left feeling like, well, what do I actually want for myself now? And I realized
yeah.
I've never really even asked myself that question really.
Mm.
So about what age did you start kind of doing this parsing out of your wants and your real desires?
Man, first of all, First of all, there's this quote that sort of tears me apart that says, "On the top of every mountaintop, guess what there is? More mountaintops."
Mm,
As soon as you get up there, there's more to go.
yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting picture because we sort of have this delusion of permanency, like that things are like you can sort of build something and there it is, and now I can live in this forever. Well, actually, no, nothing in the universe actually works that way.
Yeah.
Everything is temporary. Anything that is, strong now will be weak later. Anything that's weak now will be strong later. This is how the world works. um and I think that, like, for me, it's when I reached the mountaintop.
Mhm.
I got up there, I was working one of these jobs, making that womp, making that. I'm in New York City making the wiggity womp. And you know, hanging out with celebrities and hanging out with like billionaires and stuff, like clients asking me by name, like I'm only gonna work with Shabazz,
Mm,
like that feels like something. But my world was kind of fucked up. It's
yeah.
really no other way to say it. Like I was doing everything on the outside that looked like success, but on the inside, there was no success there. Coming home, throwing up on my wife's feet, because I drank too much tequila. Like trying to run with billionaires. Like I can't. What's that famous joke with Kevin Hart? Is it stay in your lane? Yeah, I wasn't staying in my lane. I thought I was in the lanes. But you know what? I look back at that time of having that kind of success, having all those sort of outwardly gifts, and I look back at that and I realize, like, it's a blessing to see it because this is what I've always been chasing for. Most people will never get to experience the bitter curse that is flamboyant success. And it looks sweet, but just like water for chocolate. It like you bite into the sweet chocolate, it tastes like dirt. And that it's really a blessing for me because even though, like, my to me, wild success to anybody else, most people in the world, is very moderate to low amount of success in New York City, these sort of big cities, California, you know but for me, it's all I needed. I took the bite and realized I'm not biting this no more. I
Yeah.
knew enough in my spirit that this isn't firm for me. And so I was making a name for myself selling vodka and tequila, and I don't even drink. And so I quit the ad business as like this place, to sell these sort of industries. I started to make films and started to dig deep into my craft as an artist. Um and and I started making children's books, and then I started getting asked to do advertising work for really dope companies like the Obama Foundation, and which was like highlight of my career, is to do this thing and get to help Barack Obama, the former president, like doing initiatives. Crazy. Like that was really incredible. And it's sort of like this idea that, hey, like, the energy that you begin to put out, like, comes towards you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when the shift started to happen. I started to really focus on how can I take these gifts and do something beautiful with them. I at first I felt like I had to do all of these. As a young creative, you just do whatever comes your way. No is not an answer when you're a young creative. You just, every opportunity, yes. Yes. You want what you want to do? You selling tequila? I don't even drink tequila. Yes, I'll do it. What you selling, such and such? Yes, I'll do it, because the creative opportunity is there, the pay is there. It's about, you just do it. Right. But as you start to grow, you start to see the implications of your actions. You start to see like the action, what comes of it, like the fruit of the tree that you, the seeds, everything, every project that we do is fruit. There's seeds that we're planting, and I just was sort of not liking the fruit. So I started doing more of the social impact work, and eventually I was, working on that kind of stuff, even at advertising agencies that weren't focused on social impact. They would give me like Sony cameras, and I was like, all right, I'll do Sony cameras, but I'm gonna make it like I'm gonna make it for the people. I'm only gonna talk about inspiring and love and being the best citizens that we could be. Just trying anything I could to make the work important.
I love that so
And then
much.
in 2020, something bizarre happened. I I got I started someone asked me to help build this a meditation and mindfulness company. Which is a really really deep turn, which is what I'm doing now. It's working on this company, True Voice.
Okay, before we go into True Voice, because I
Oh,
have tons
okay.
of questions about that, I wanted to
I
just
bet.
back up a little bit to what I mean. I'll just ask this question and then you just like see how it lands for you. So, like, what is your approach to scarcity versus abundance? Because when I see you, I like even the way you create is not like I'm creating. I am a painter. That is what I do. It's like you really create with every part of your being, like your voice, like what you're speaking to now about True Voice, film, music, even your parenting style, I would say, is like a very creative approach. I mean, I remember coming to your house for the first time and seeing like TPs set up for the children and just they were just like fully expressed, fully creative children. And so I just want to see how you approach like because as you're speaking about like projects, like do you have a scarcity mindset ever, or does that, or you just like fully live in your abundance?
Man, wow, that question is heavy. Scarcity, man, affects us all. We all have these feelings of scarcity, that there's not enough for us, that we got to kind of do all that we can now before we lose it all. And I think that fueled a lot of my previous career, in advertising. Is this I took every job. At some point, it became I took every job because I don't know where the next job is going to come from, and this was paying a lot. So, you know, that became like, oh, I have to do it. If I say no, then what's going to happen of my family? So yeah, that definitely was a part of me. But at the same time, when you speak about the sort of multifaceted nature of my work, it's like I just don't believe in sort of staying in one lane. I don't I want to paint one day. I want to make films the other day. My medium isn't any of these mediums. My medium is the story of blackness. My medium is the story of black struggle. My medium is black success and black majesty, black magic and black spirituality. Just black. you know that's my medium. What's black? I want to paint that because the thing is, we don't get as many images to make us feel good. If you ever been on the wrong side of a bridge looking over, if you've ever thought about ending your life because you felt like alone and you felt, I think so much of that is the conditioning, so much of just us leaving us out of the stories. That I don't care. I tell all our stories in any way that it feels good because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make, my art is to make people feel good. I know that most artists don't. I've talked to so many artists, and no one likes to think about, hey, here's people want to experience my art, and that's cool with so many artists. I don't get it, but I mean, I do get it. I understand it, and I respect it. But for me, my art is for the people. It don't belong to me. That didn't answer your question either, but something
It
you
did in
said
a
made me
way.
think about it.
Yeah. It definitely did because I feel like you do a great job about creating your own opportunities, and I think through like just letting the stories like come through you versus feeling like you need to be stuck in this certain thing that people knew you as. And I feel like a lot of people and me included, get like so like bogged down by that. Like people only know me as this thing. And so I don't, even though I have a desire to do another thing, how will people receive it? And it feels like you live life like pretty unbothered. I don't know, I could be wrong, but just experiencing you, I feel like you are very much so unbothered.
I love that. I love that vibe. I want to live unbothered. I do seek to be there, to live in the space of the unbothered. But I'm
Yeah.
learning from you, really, Angel. I really am learning from you. I'm studying. I'm taking notes from your life. I'm just over here like, Angel, how's Angel doing this? Okay. Yes.
I'm very bothered, but I just try to push past it, I
You know
think.
what? The truth is, yeah, like everybody has their level of bothered, but we're all sort of like pushing through it, like
Yeah.
it's just like I'm gonna mess with Jackie Joyner, who's a track star. Jackie, I'm gonna mess up her name. I'm not gonna do it to my queen. So but there used to be this old track star that used to run and just kill all the hurdles, and
Mm.
she never touched them. She never People would just be fucking up, falling all over, boom, yeah, everybody falling all over the place. She just got wow, everyone. Not she's missing the whole thing. But the hurdles are still the hurdles. Just because she's clearing them don't mean they don't exist. And you got them, and you're clearing them. Ooh, girl, ooh,
That's
Jesus,
a
hallelujah.
word.
Bisa si mata mata vita babota.
That's a word for sure. Oh, I love
You
that. I'm gonna have to
clearing them,
look that
girl.
person up.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Like, when I met you, you were a filmmaker coming from out of Fisk, and you were like, "Oh man, I'm doing these films," and you just and by the way, which still unmatched, very beautiful film. Your film perspective is unmatched, but
Thank
also
you.
just that now your story is sort of, hey, now I'm doing podcasting. Now you're branching out and doing all the things, and man, I love how you trust yourself.
I
So thank you
appreciate
for
you saying
inspiring me.
that. You inspire me so, so much. Okay, I do want to go into true voice. So
Okay.
I was in a meditation with you recently, and I hate that I did not write this down. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity. So hopefully you can say it again. But you were talking about like our time and like if someone like being a slave to our time. But you said this quote that was so beautiful. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I write these short poems, and it's just a poem that I wrote that said, "It's our ability to pause is a sign of our sovereignty, and
Yes.
our inability to pause is a sign of our captivity."
Mhm.
And part of what I mean there is this is what my mindfulness is about. I think there's a lot of people who wonder, like, what is meditation? What are you doing? Are you just sitting down being quiet? Well, yeah, but but why? What effect does it have on our lives? And a lot, actually. But one of the things that are very impactful for me from the practice is just this idea of becoming sovereign. That it's not like you know, the angry driver next to me is not sovereign in my life. When my wife needs something faster than I can give it to her, she ain't. Her voice is not sovereign in my life. Hey, I gotta. There's this publishing company in my inbox asking me to do a book, and they're like, man, I really, really would hope for you to sign on to do this thing. We've been asking for 2 years. They are not sovereign in my life. My bank account is not sovereign, and so it allows us to put space between all the things that are sort of tugging at us. Our meditation practice is this practice of observing the things and realizing, wait, I don't have to answer to you. But it's a practice because most of the things in the practice are pretty benign because they're like, oh, should I itch my head?
Yeah.
And you think your whole life, oh, I got an itch, I need to scratch it. But we exist, our existence, our being, to me, it is another poem. Our being is that we are not the itch or the scratch. We are the space between the itch and the scratch. And so when we feel the itch and we take a moment to decide how we're going to respond to it. We exercise our sovereignty. And that's pretty benign in meditation sometimes, but then they have real life uh, implications when you're like in your life and someone's asking you to do something, you know, quicker than you know how to. You're sovereign here. You know, someone is cussing you out. Do I have to cuss them out back? I know everything in my childhood, my, you know, everything from my upbringing, not from my parents, but from my neighborhood, tells me that I need to cuss them out back. But you know, do I have to though? Can I be sovereign? And then I have to ask my questions like, who am I? What am I? What am I? What is my existence? You know, and I've been coming from the place that I am calm, I'm confident, I'm connected, I am loved, I am loving. That's me. And so when that person is responding, that's me.
Yeah.
When when I'm cussing somebody else out, that's them on the throne of me. They're
Yeah.
sitting on my throne because I'm doing they shit. I'm not doing my shit. I'm doing they shit. So they're on the throne. The angry driver in the traffic, when they cussing me out and I'm cussing them back, they're on the throne. Those people are driving my car. You know, but we could drive our own car. We could be sovereign in our own land, our own empire, which is our body. Um,
I love that.
and
So how did you come to meditation? Sorry to cut you off.
no, no,
Just
no, no. Thank you for you have to cut me off, Angel. Which is you're probably noticing that. I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, so I
uh,
remember I was visiting Nashville and like I ran into you very randomly, because
mhm.
I had moved away,
Oh my
and I was so
God,
grateful for our run in, and we sat for like I feel like an hour,
we
and you were
did.
telling me about True Voice. I feel like it was you had just been in it like for a year, and you were telling me about meditation and how it had been so impactful for you, and so I just want you to share some of that here now. Because I feel like we don't hear Black men specifically talk about meditation enough. And you are doing the great work of creating this space, creating this app for people to come together multiple times a week and create that space for themselves.
It's such a beautiful thing that we get to hold space for each other. And you're right. It's sort of like the only other you see it in your family, you see it in like maybe like a religious church kind of context. Maybe if you have the courage and finances to go to therapy, you see it there maybe sometimes. Um but yeah, we're trying to hold space. And, you know, let me answer your first question about how did I come to meditation? You know, I was working this really creative job. I was in the studio with Puff Daddy and all his friends making albums with this guy, just watching from the back, you know, just sitting in the back like, oh my God, and just feeling the creative energy of, you know, all the, you know, creative rappers coming through and doing what they do. And, you know, that creative energy is real, man. And I remember when I quit that job, I was like, man, I need to wash this thing off of me because I need to enter into a different space. I need to, you know, I need to enter into a different place. And I remember I made an album of music. I made a whole album of music. Oh, I also had my first kid. My first son was born. And so I was just me. I was like, okay, honey, you gonna stay where I quit my job. You gonna go to work. I'm gonna be stay-at-home dad. I'm gonna freelance from home. But before I start any work, I'm gonna just take some time. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna put a pause between all the things. This is the first time I ever paused in my life to just be with my son. You know, got a baby, but Jordan was bouncing up on my thing. You know what I'm saying? Just like, hey, hey, hey. You know, he's just on my chest. We in there making music. And I said to myself to watch this experience. So I was like, I'm gonna make like meditation music. I promise to God, I never meditated before in my life. I had no idea what I was talking about. All I knew is I needed peace. And the most peace I could think about was some meditative. And in fact, it was my word, meditative. I don't even know if that's not a word. It's not a word. Meditative music. And I did that. I used all that creative energy. I put it in an album that I did. It's a really, you know, many years ago. This happened now, like probably like 8 years ago now. And uh you know, that was an interesting experience. And then after, I didn't do anything with that music. I just kept it there. But 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 after that, I really started to open up this path of what is meditation actually? What is it really? And so I started to sort of, you know, just try to examine more and find different kinds of musics and find people. And I kind of really casually looked about it for a while. Um, and at some point, I don't even know when, but at some point, I began to just take it a lot more seriously because, oh, I know what it was. Yeah, okay, I know what it was. Actually, what happened was I started going to a therapist, and with my therapist, I realized I had ADHD. And I never knew this before. You know, I'm like 35 or something like that, just realizing like, you know, that I had ADHD. And I remember like feeling like, oh man, I really need to, you know, I need to do something about this. And they were like, well, you can take this medicine, or maybe here's some mindfulness practices that you could try. They didn't know what they were talking about. But, you know, I'm not really with the medicine. So I was like, all right, let me just try some of these things. You know, let me take this thing more seriously that I've been sort of into. And oh, and I saw this documentary on Netflix that was about the mind explaining. They talked about the power that you could sort of like heal yourself. You could heal your whole body. These Buddhist monks can like find pain in their body and heal it
Oh
through
yes, I'm
meditation.
very much so in. Yeah, I've seen a couple
Yeah,
of
and
things on
that's
that. Yeah.
wild. That's like, oh, you mean so I can have superpowers if I meditate? Nah,
Mm-hmm.
nah, nah, nah. I'm getting up in there. And I remember that was the thing that set it into blast off. That documentary was like, okay, nah, this is my shit now. And so I began sort of a regular practice listening to the calms and listening to the insight timers and all those kinds of things. And yeah, that's it's sort of blossomed and bloomed and sort of grown along the way.
I love that. And so,
Yeah.
how did you come up with the app, True Voice?
Well, that's a good question. Okay. Sorry, you did ask me that already. All right. Well,
Well, you were getting into it, and I wanted to properly ask it. I'm like, you're doing my job for me.
well, True Voice is it's interesting about some of these apps, right? I told you that like my meditation journey. It used to be that you had to travel to like Tibet, right?
Right.
You couldn't even like read about meditations in books, right? Like you had to go find a teacher. And then with the advent of these apps like Calm, with Tamara Levitt and Headspace with Buddha, I can't remember his name, or I can't pronounce his name, and I don't want to embarrass myself. Uh, these apps have actually been world changing. So they've brought meditation and mindfulness to communities around the world that may have never actually experienced that. And so it has sort of been this sort of boom that has happened in the meditation and mindfulness space. The only problem is for a Black person, sometimes like the voices sound like people that like was kind of like really racist towards you,
Oh
you
my
know,
god.
and
Yes, yes.
and and so it's like, man, I really love this, but like
You're like
I'm really
having
fighting.
microaggressions as you're like listening, trying to get into a mindfulness.
Exactly. Like you're fighting through the sound and like it's a lot. It's a lot. And luckily I was really committed to that practice, but I just remember early on just like really yearning for more voices that sound like me, somebody sound like, my family, right? And so in starting True Voice, it really started with, hey, how can we find, how can we, it really started with just like people that are looking for therapists, like people who are looking for wellness help, right? That are people Black and brown community, right? That are looking for wellness help. And really, actually, technically, it started with Black women, like how can we serve the needs of Black wellness needs better? Um, and but with the meditation specifically, we were like, I thought it was important from the very beginning to say these need to be authentic voices that sound like my mother, that sound like my grandmother, my uncle, that sound like my friends, that so I could sort of enter into this space without all of the hurdles to sort of to have to jump over them. And that's really uh, what sort of is the cornerstone of what we're building at True Voice, is to have these sort of diverse voices, authentic voices, and also with a knowledge of our experience, like speak using stories that come from my life, that sort of resemble a little bit more my life.
Or
And
even the music that you play. Like I love like when you always close out with Erica Badu. Like this feels familiar to me. It doesn't feel like I'm because sometimes I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes meditation can feel culturally appropriative. Like listening to like just stuff that I'm not engaging with this outside of this meditation right now. Um and so with True Voice, it feels familiar. It feels very easy to insert into my life. It doesn't feel like I'm traveling to Bali or like on a eat pray love journey. It's like this is very seamless.
yeah, I mean, let me just say, we've got Grammy award winning producers making music for the music in True Voice,
Nice.
and we're really getting nerdy about it. I mean, like nerdy. Like, how do we? What kind of sounds? What kind of sounds like produce empathy? What kind of sounds produce joy? What are the keys? What are the the hertz? What's the tuning? What does it got to be tuned to? You know, and that also is, as an artist, that was a part of my own experimentation as well. Is like, how can I, and I ask the same questions, like, this music sounds really great that I hear in this meditation app, but like, does it gotta sound like this? Like, are there any rules? And I remember just going around asking people, like, why does it sound like this? Like, why does it particularly gotta sound like a long drone Arcade Fire type,
Yeah.
South Asian? And does it gotta sound like that? And I went on this journey of like, what does black mindfulness sound like? What is this sort of the sonic black mindfulness experience? And I had a major revelation. You want to know what it is?
Yes.
All music on the American radio stations, all of it,
Oh,
all black music is mindfulness music.
that's
And it
real.
hit me like a ton of bricks. The reason why black music is so special is because it's inherently soulful. It's inherently
Mm-hmm.
gospel, jazz, blues. Now, it's a little bit easier to listen to some of it, a little slower maybe. But actually, I also practice when you come to my meditation practice. I'll also practice with you with the sort of the more upbeat stuff as well, because it's the experiential thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the experience. You go past thinking, you go into your body, and that is where we get into meditation. And so creating these different sort of experiences, man. From the beginning, Ashley's my partner, who is the head of wellness. I'm the head of content, she's the head of wellness. And from the beginning, we're making the hip hop of mindfulness. And we don't really know what that means exactly, but we know that we're going to break some rules. We know that we're
Yeah.
going to like do some things that we're not supposed to do, and we don't care. We're gonna get people to the healing. We're gonna get people to the wellness. We're gonna get people, most of all, to the practice, practice, practice. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever we got to do to get you there, we're gonna get you there. And that's our energy. And
Oh,
that kind of stands as kind of the cornerstone of what at least the on-demand library of True Voice is about.
that is so special. Yeah, y'all are truly disruptors in the meditation wellness space, and I am just so here for it. I love coming like to the meditations and seeing the community grow and like seeing new people in there before that I haven't seen. Because right now it's still closed off, right? Like it's still a
We're
safe
still
space.
invitation only, but I'd love to offer an invitation to all your listeners. So right here, I'm just gonna put it out there. Can we put like a thing in your comments or something like that?
Yeah.
Well,
In the show notes, I can put something in the show notes.
in the show notes, truevoiceapp.com/Shabazz Larkin. Like, look, everybody's invited. Everybody who listens to the Foster. And really, the reason why we're doing that is to keep it safe.
Yeah.
We're not redoing. There are both. So let me tell you, in what we're doing, True Voice, there's like on demand meditations and talks from people, which we really love it. So you can listen to them anytime with the great music that you were talking about. And then there's also these live sessions that happen, all throughout the day. And that's really us building community, authentic community. And the reason why we're sort of building slowly and doing invitation only is just because we want to have those authentic relationships there. That people aren't there, hey, to just, hey, I'm here to just cuss people out and start debates. No, actually, we're here for wellness. And so, there's you hear the clubhouses and the barbecues and the
Yeah.
what's of the world, and they're really lovely, fun spaces for what they are. But our space is for wellness and healing. And so, in order to sort of learn how to scale and grow a community that's safe and as we say, a brave space, where people can feel vulnerable enough to share and be who they are, we start in small, and sort of growing
I love
slowly.
that. And I think that speaks to what I was speaking to, trying to get to earlier around your approach to abundance, because I feel like some people would start something and be like, we need to get this in front of as many people as possible. Like, and just, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But in doing that, it doesn't allow you to foster that intention in the same way when you're like, let's just scale it back. Let's start small. Let's be
Mm,
really intentional about who we bring into this
mm.
space. And so we can keep the space safe or brave, as you put it. And I love that so much. It's just really
I mean,
special.
any creator, any artist, any sort of practitioner will tell you, like, they would much rather have 5 dedicated people than 50 people that's going to say hi and bye, And so I think that, we're focused on, I'm focused on building vulnerability in my friendships and my relationships in the community that I'm building. Vulnerability and openness and love and real genuine friendship, authentic friendship. So um, I'm so happy to do that. I actually lead in meditation every Thursday. I bring the music, bring all the vibes. And on Thursdays, like, it's like my little Thursday family. We get together, we're there to support each other. Sometimes they don't even say nothing, but they just little faces are there. Hey, hi. It just feels good to just have my people. So yeah, like that's what authentic community is. And I think, that's what's beautiful.
Totally. So you also recently just started a podcast yourself, which is why you have this fancy mic, called Museum of Presence. How has that been? Like, what has that experience been like?
I love this project. The Museum of Presence is really, for me, all of the things that I love coming together at once. And so it's really the pillars of the Museum of Presence is art. It is a museum. Um, um, Mindfulness, but it's not an art museum, it's a museum of presence. So art, mindfulness, and then the last thing is underrepresented Nashville. And so that's like really focusing on the BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, with a strong heavy emphasis on the black, biggity black part of it, because that's what I'm interested in and myself, although we have all kinds of people that are a part of this project. We really have sort of pulled together a continuum of people that just love the art and love the arts and love mindfulness in Nashville, that have sort of just laid their hand to the plow to be a part of this. And really, that in itself was the whole reason why I did the whole thing. When I came to Nashville and I started doing, art exhibitions, um, I just remember asking around, hey, what's the organization that I could give money to? I'm selling all this art, but I want a portion of my proceeds to go to something happening in Nashville. And people were like, well, if you want that, you have to start that because it don't exist. And well, later I realized actually a couple organizations do exist, but they're sort of not as widely known. And it really sort of stuck with me, and everybody said, hey, if you started something like that, I'll support it. And so that's what we did. I wanted to create something that brought people to the table to talk, the artists to know each other, to exchange ideas, to have excuses to be in the same room with each other, to share each other's, breathing space, like to get in, to rub elbows, and to build friendships. that happened within the arts community. Every great art scene that has ever happened because there was an amazing community, right? So, in the 80s in New York City with the Basquiat's and the Warhols and the Keith Herrings, and they had a place. They actually had a place that they'd go to. This church that they go to. In Spain, well, in Europe, there's the Picasso and the Dalis, and there was all with every art movement there was a community, and so I just felt like it was important that, and there are communities in Nashville, but there's sort of maybe my side of Nashville isn't always invited to those art communities. I wasn't, I'm not included in some of those opportunities for artists to get together. So I thought, why don't we build our own table, and that's what the Museum of Presence is. Build our own opportunity to highlight artists that we think are interesting. There's a newspaper here in town that highlighted, it was like all the best hip hop artists in Nashville, and it was on the front cover of the local paper here. And everybody was all excited. Oh, look, it's hip hop. And then you start asking hip hop people, and they're like, nah, they left out all the hip hop people. These are all people who just started yesterday. They just started rapping yesterday. They don't even know because they're not in our community. They don't know. They
Yeah.
don't actually know. And so it's like we have to be able, we being Black people, brown people, we have to be able to tell our own stories, because when other people tell our stories, they don't get the details right, and we hand over the keys to them. But this has been such a, let me just tell you about this. Let me tell you about this magazine, okay? Let me tell you about this newspaper. I've got like Omari Booker, who was incarcerated for 15 years. He does a show about his incarceration. He shares about this show and speaks about how he found freedom on the inside. Wow, this is double entendre. On the inside of his incarceration, but also on the inside, he realized that his freedom wasn't a place. And so, as he sort of like lived out his parole, these 15 years, now he's off parole, and he feels, oh, now I'm feeling his captivity, So just because it leaves him, it doesn't really leave him. Ultra powerful conversation, and I put it out as the first podcast that I shared because to me it was the perfect embodiment of art and mindfulness, because he found liberation and freedom through his art. So I felt it was the perfect picture for the magazine. The next one is Jennifer Wong, who's actually, she leads an organization in Nashville called the Nashville POC Sangha, which is a sangha, like meditation community that's just for brown people. And what a lovely space that is. And we do a practice together. We got Mike Floss and Ro Marquez to come offer freestyle. They just came, like, I was like, yo, I want to pretend like I'm Sway in the morning. Can we do this? Can we do this situation? They
Yes.
came and they brought the freestyles and they killed it. I mean, Nashville, any of the hip hop heads in Nashville are going to go nuts over this thing. I'm very excited. So, and you don't think like, oh, okay, so, oh, here's some rappers. They're just gonna do some raps and they're gonna be gone. No, actually, me and Mike Floss have an hour-long conversation about his involvement in the Nashville Black Assembly, which is this
Yes.
organization that gets Black people together to talk about what they want from our elected officials. I talk with Ro Marquez for an hour about fatherhood and spirituality, and these just sort of like great in depth. And they want to paint the pictures of our artists as these sort of one-dimensional human beings. They
Yeah.
want to make us this one thing. Okay, yeah, I do. I am from North Nashville. Yes, I am from North Nashville. I do like run with some street energy, but at the same time, I'm also a father. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual man. Like we're more complex human beings, and that's what happens when we tell our own stories. We get to see all of us and not just the one dimension.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Just piggybacking off the conversation I had with Ashley, she spoke a lot about parenting styles and the dynamics within your relationship and how that plays out into parenting. And I'm just wondering, what is it like being a father?
Parenting?
Yeah.
Parenting? And I hit you like Iverson. You want to talk about parenting? Parenting? Not even a game. You talk about parenting? Yo, you know what? Parenting is practice. Parenting is practice for our humanity. Parenting is like my kids are Buddha. They are my Buddha. They are the greatest teacher. They are my Zen master. They are my Thich Nhat Hanh. Like my kids teach me everything there is to know about what life is about. You know, and so I love being a father. You know, it's so funny. All my books include my kid. I like to include my kids in my books. And people always, I do podcasts. People always want to ask me about fatherhood because they're like, I see you with your kids, because they just don't see images of black men or just men in general with the kids. You know,
Yeah.
they just it's not there. It doesn't seem. It's and so, but I'm like, man, I put my kids in everything. I it's because they're my world. I love them. You know,
You
but
shared
parenting is
something
tricky.
recently though. I was on a walk and I was listening to it. It was like a poem, I guess, and you were mainly talking about like your relationship with your father and like your approach with it. It was like a song, but like you remixed the lyrics. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh man, I don't know. It sounds incredible though.
You remixed the lyrics, but you were speaking about your relationship with your dad and maybe some of the childhood trauma you experienced. And I found it very relatable as someone who has experienced, like, I think you were talking about like whoopings and things like that.
Oh yeah, like yeah. There's a poem. I wrote a poem about my choice not to beat my kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very complex thing. You know, it's a very complex thing to talk about because I love my father. I think he's a lovely man. I love my mother. She's a lovely woman. But they beat my ass. They beat me.
Yeah.
And I have trauma from that. I have lasting trauma. I have long lasting trauma from that. And um it's difficult to talk about because you don't want to dishonor your parents. Um and but at the same time, if every generation isn't getting better, if we're not inspiring each other, um then we're doing it wrong in my opinion. You know, I think that when I was a young father, I did pop my son's butt a couple times, and I regret every pop on the butt, even though they probably didn't even hurt. But it doesn't matter. Just the intimidation alone is something that I realize is traumatic for me. Is a division. It's more. It probably blessed me in a lot of ways, but it also divided me in a lot of ways. And so I think that this was not my father's idea. It was his father's idea. And it wasn't his father's idea. It was his father's idea. And it wasn't actually his father's idea. We all know that this comes back to white supremacy. This comes back to colonialization. This comes back to self hatred practices that come from not from us, but from 400 years of slavery. I just say this unapologetically. I don't because we have to talk about these things. We don't have to blame our parents for these conditionings. We can look at them with gratitude, but also realize, hey, I have to sort of inspire. I have to change myself and do what I can to inspire those around me to also realize that there's other ways. Because when my kids were the smallest, I thought I had to be like, hey, you get over here, do the way that I was, because that's all I knew, you know. But coming back to sovereignty, I'm not sovereign there. What's happening is some kind of childhood traumatic experience is sovereign in my parenting. And so this is my mindfulness practice has helped me become a better parent, because now I could put a pause between, hey, you're acting wild, and to realize, actually my reaction to that is more out of, I wasn't allowed to do that, and I think that I need to make you not be allowed to break a glass and not be scolded for it, and so someone else is sitting on my throne. And I think that the process of parenthood is just really learning how to love ourselves, to for me to like to examine my own self, You know, I'm gonna tell you a story. I went on this retreat. It was a meditation retreat. It was a long, silent retreat. Okay, it was a very powerful experience. And I came back from this thing. I felt like fucking tick motherfucking not Han. Okay, I felt like a Buddhist monk. Okay, like I'm meditating 5 times a day. All right. Right. Like I'm like you know what I'm saying? I'm in
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm like chief fucking mindfulness dude. Okay. My wife goes off to Italy to go hang out with her girlfriends. I'm at home with the kids all by myself. I was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I planned for that. And then she got back with COVID because apparently everybody who comes back from Europe
Oh
comes back with COVID.
no.
So she got that European strand of COVID. And so then I had to be with the kids for another 10 days or something in the house. Okay, so they started getting shaky after that. But my Thich Nhat Hanh started going. I wasn't as still meditating 5 times a day, but the kids were starting to itch at me. Like they're breaking stuff, their things are dirty, like, and I'm like, hey, hey. And I'm realizing I'm losing my thing. And then and this is the power of the practice. And one day I'm sitting down in my practice for a very long sit, and I noticed this large. I always imagine my thoughts as animals, but that's a whole other story. But I noticed this large, giant black bear, this anger that was there that I had never dealt with, and from my raising, from how I was raised. And I realized I had never even dealt with this. And so now I have this picture of this black bear. And it realized, hey, when I'm snapping at the kids for breaking that and doing that thing over there, it's really me just living out shit that I experienced as a child. And in the practice, I realized, oh, okay, I could put separation between. I know what this is. And so now when my sons do something, I could say, oh, there's a black bear. I feel the black bear is coming up. And just by acknowledging it and saying it out loud, I've depowered the black bear. That doesn't mean the black bear isn't coming up. That just means
Mm-hmm.
now I'm looking at it and I know what you're there and I could respond to you. But the thing is, the thing that have no face, the voice that has no face, the voice that we give, no name and we don't identify, the voice that we don't know is there is what we become. And so we don't know. We could become whatever black bear until you could point out that the black bear is there. That black bear is you. You
Yeah,
are
it's
it.
literally mindfulness. It's the things we've been programmed into. We go on autopilot. That is the natural response. And then when we're present with ourselves, then we can react the way, like you said, we can be on the throne finally. It's really powerful.
Let's be on the throne. You said it. You said it so beautifully, Angel.
No, I'm just regurgitating what I'm learning from you here. Oh, that is so, so special. What would you, this is my last question, I swear. Oh, no, I have actually one more.
Angel, you can ask me as many questions you like. I love this. Continue.
What would you say to people who are like, that gentle parenting, that's great for you, but for me and my household, like that's not gonna work for me because I don't want my kids to be weak or insert X, Y, and Z thing they think will be associated with their children if they don't treat them violently.
Listen, the way that we treat our children is the way that we treat ourselves. And how do you want to be treated? The only reason why it's difficult, the reason why it's difficult to sort of change that is because we're unable to look at ourselves, to look at the truth. There is this delusion, this like, hey, I don't want to look at what it is, you know. But and I don't have soft parenting. Just because I'm not beating my kids doesn't mean I'm just letting my kids act crazy. They got chores. They have other things. There's boundaries in place. We have to do hard work to talk about it all. We have to communicate it. And the same work that you got to do to communicate with your partners, you got to even more so talk to your kid because at least you could say something half-assed to your partner, they would understand. But to a kid, you have to stop, think about what you got to say, and really break it down and make it
Yes.
simple. And it's work, but it is the work. It's either that or taking off your belt and beating someone. The truth is, it's worth doing the hard work to pause and be on the throne. If we can connect with what we're doing, what when we're with a child, what are we doing? Are we just trying to avoid chaos, or are we trying to sort of raise a human? Are we trying to just get them to stop bugging me, or am I trying to teach them to be lovely people? I want to hang out with my kids when they're older, and I want to hang out with them. I want to model to them how I think that they should be a human. The golden rule in our house is treat other people as you want to be treated. And the ones that's hardest to learn how to do that is me, not them, me. I struggle the most because when they act crazy, I want to be like, yo, y'all sit down and shut up somewhere. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. That's what happened to me. That's how I grew up. That's what it is. But the truth is, that's you know it's hard, and I don't mean to belittle anyone who has taken that choice. And it's not just beatings, because beatings is really extreme. It's actually just any kind of intimidation, any kind of do what I say, and leave it alone is the same thing. It's all in the category of sort of that inflammatory, just do it mentality. But my kids are Montessori kids. They learn through playing. Montessori is a really interesting way to study, even if you don't believe in the model as an education model. You learn things through playing, through experience. And all the teachers speak like this, and they speak very calm, and all the kids talk very calm. And I'm like, how the fuck you get these kids to talk so calm? What you doing to my kids? It's like nothing. They just actually respect them. They respect
Right.
them. They bring them so much respect, and instead of my school, when you got in trouble, you got kicked out. Go
Mhm.
bye. See you next week. You got to go home, get a beating from your parents. I in my kids' school, when they get in trouble, they go to the office and they do a singing bowl for 5 minutes.
Oh
Or
my
if you
gosh.
or if you need some time to, or if you're feeling kind of anxious, they have a peace corner. You sit down for 5 minutes in the peace corner and you sit quietly, you read a book, or it's a little soft place that's
I need
lovely
that for
for them to
myself,
go.
honestly. I need a little peace corner.
But the thing is, it's like how horrible do we talk to ourselves? We talk to ourselves like shit. When we do something wrong, we're like, shit, Shabazz, you need to fucking get it to fucking together. And then that shit comes out on other people. And it comes out that lack of compassion. One of my favorite scriptures from my Christian heritage is it's God's grace that brings us into repentance, which means it's not like not yelling at us, it's not beating us. It's, hey, I love you and I have grace for you. I have, there is space for you. There's love, and through that love, you can change. I love this African community that when they got in trouble, they would sing songs. They put them in a circle and they would sing songs to them, sing songs of healing and love, and that sort of brought repentance out of the kid. Just imagine when you fuck up, you want somebody to just hug you.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take that with me throughout this week as I'm beating myself up for not doing enough or not showing up in the way that I'm supposed to. Yeah, I think
Mm,
the more we can just be kinder to ourselves, I think that's just always the lesson for me. I think I say that every podcast. Just the more we can be kinder to ourselves, show ourselves that grace, the more we can allow that to come through for others. And
yeah.
that's, I want to be perceived as a nice and a kind person. And it's like, if I don't even do that for myself, how is that ever going to come through?
Yeah. This is sort of the power. This is the interesting thing about mindfulness practice. At the center of mindfulness practice is, there's this practice meditation. Meditations where you sit your butt in the chair or you walk. The Buddha taught four kinds of meditations: walking, sitting, standing. Wait, walking, sitting, standing. There's another one in there. I can't remember what it is.
Okay. Is it sleeping?
Uh, no, not sleeping. Walking, sitting, standing, laying
Laying.
meditation.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's like there's so many people that like read the mindfulness books, they sort of get all the wisdom and the knowledge, but then they don't do the practice.
Yeah.
It's like in the practice is where you get to experience, hey, I'm going to treat myself good. The practice is a gift. The practice is a vacation. It's lovely. It's like it's actually the thing that we're asking for all day long. We're like, I wish I had a chance to sit down somewhere. I'm so tired. I wish I could like. Meditation is the practice to sit your ass down somewhere and, and to actually invite relaxation. It's the practice of inviting a pause into all of the things in our lives, and we rarely, even those that sort of read the books and do all the things, we rarely give ourselves a chance to practice, to actually do the thing that we know is good for us. Somebody told me, Jennifer Wong, in on one of the podcasts, she said the Museum of Presence podcast. She said it's like brushing your teeth. If you wait if you brush your teeth every day, you'll be good. If you wait to the end of the week to brush your teeth every time, you gonna have some problems.
Mm. Yeah, I've
you,
heard
you
that
can't
before
you
too.
can't brush your teeth
Meditation is
once a
like the,
week,
the cleaning of your brain a little bit. Like, is yeah, yeah, that's real. We need to do it daily.
and it's a gift to us. It is a practice of love for ourselves. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna talk better to myself. Oh, I'm gonna take myself out on a date. It's actually like, let me actually invest time into me the way that you want your partner to invest time into you, the way you want your father to invest time, your mother, your sister, the way you want time, this presence invested into you. Like, you can invest it into yourself and change your whole life. You could even take things that are playing, talk about kids again. I read this thing from Thich Nhat Hanh that said, hey, you can play with your kids in two ways. You could play with your kids so that you can get on to doing the other thing, and it'll frustrate you the whole time while you're fucking doing it because you're just trying to get onto the other thing, right? Or you could play with your kids for the point of playing with your kids. You just this is, I get to do this. And in that moment, it becomes rest. The thing that's sort of stressful to you becomes rest. Like, and it's a trick that you could do on anything. Oh, I'm driving the car. Okay, well, I gotta drive the car and do this. I'm going to call this phone. Oh, it's fucking stressful. Oh, well, actually, I'm gonna drive the car, and I'm just gonna drive the car. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just drive this car. I love my favorite one of my favorite poems from Thich Nhat Hanh is I get in my car, I know where I'm going, I go fast. That's his meditation. I
Mm.
get in the car, I know where I'm going, I go fast. you know, and because anything can be a practice, a restful, restorative practice, if we can allow ourselves to really do it. The problem is that we rarely allow ourselves to do one thing. We got to do 10 things. And so we don't actually do anything. I'm talking to you, I'm drinking my tea. Well, I'm not actually drinking my tea. I didn't enjoy any of this because I was just talking the whole time. So I didn't even, it was delicious, but I didn't really get it. I'm there's a sunset and I'm eating my biscuits. Okay, well, I'm doing both. But you're going to enjoy that sunset even more if you just stop everything and just give the sunset 100% of yourself. Driving your car, talking to your friends, whatever it is, we get with our friends, and then we start looking at our other friends on Instagram. We have
Yeah.
this thing where we like to be away from our bodies, in places that we're not, in times that we're not. We try to form relationships with the future, but beware of forming relationships with the future, because the future doesn't exist, and that only seeks to hurt you. Making relationships with things that don't exist is only there to hurt you, because it's a delusion. It's actually a lie that you're telling yourself. The biggest waste of our imagination is stress.
Yeah.
Like, we waste our imagination just thinking, oh, what might happen? Oh no. Oh, stressed about what happened. Oh, they're gonna hate me for what happened before. When you could use our imagination so many other beautiful ways. And this is what the mindfulness practice, this is what the practice of meditation teaches. This is what the practice of mindfulness is bringing a meditation to all things in life.
That is so special. Okay, my final question. I like to
Yes.
end each podcast by asking, what is something that you're fostering for yourself currently?
I'm sort of fostering like self expression and appreciation without judgment, non-judgmental expression. I recently got my very first piercing. I got a nose ring in
I was
in
going
my
to ask you
nose.
about that.
Pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And I got my ears pierced as well. And I
Nice.
remember when I was young, I remember asking my parents to get if I could do this my ears, and they were like, "Oh, when you get older." But I just never returned to it. I was just like, well, I'm over that now. And but I've always kind of wanted to do it, but I was just like, well, whatever. And I think that there's all these things about that we feel sort of confined, all these sort of boxes that we feel like, oh, there's this thing that I'm not allowed to do. I'm not allowed to put a hole in my face. I'm not allowed to, talk to that person or do that thing. We all have these sort of boxes that we've given ourselves. Like nobody's there giving it to me. And for me, I've just been fostering like, maybe I could just press some of my boundaries a bit about like, some of these limiting beliefs about what I can do or what I can't do. To really be who I want to be who I am authentically. If I am the person who is the calm, collected, confident, caring, loving, and aware person, like if I'm that person, then the decisions, the desires that come out of that space, I can listen to them and I could trust them. And so now that I'm learning that part of myself, that confident, calm, collected, aware, and loving person, now that I'm learning that person, I'm asking it, what's your desires? Like, what do you want to do? How do you want to spend your life? And what do you want to do? Like, let's have fun. So that's what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that so, so much. Well, Shabazz, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. I have no words, honestly. Um, do you have anything you want to plug or promote?
I think I did some plugging and promoting already, but I will say I have few. Yes, I have a few things I want to plug and promote.
Okay.
You mentioned it earlier. The Museum of Presence is the podcast where I talk and I have conversations like this with all kinds of artists, creators, space makers in Nashville. We talk about anything from hip hop to God to mindfulness and more. And those conversations, they sort of unfold like little movies, little soundtracks. The idea was that they can have an experience. It's actually, if you're in Nashville, there's actually a paper that goes along with this podcast that you could pick up. And the idea was to make the art experiential, that you sort of can live it, to and be more than just read the words, but sort of experience it and hear the stories from the artists themselves. So that's the first thing I want to share, because that's been a really lovely project that's unfolding. Um, Another thing that I want to share is, you also mentioned earlier about True Voice. True Voice is a community where I serve as the head of content for, and really this community is sort of just slowly sort of building a community of people that are enthusiastic about wellness, about learning what it is to meditate and learning mindfulness, and and really just making connections with other people, that have those same interests. So it's that is sort of the work of my life, and it is a beautiful sort of budding community. So if there is anyone listening that like, hey, like I want to be a part of a community like that, or even if you're like, hey, I want to hold space in a community like that, I would love for you to reach out to me. However, you can do that. And I'd like to invite everybody to who listens to the Foster to come check it out. You can go to truevoiceapp.com/Shabazz Larkin to get my personal invite. And I'd love for you to just come and see what it really is, and maybe come attend a meditation in the morning with us. That's such a really lovely practice. And I think those are all the things that I would have to plug. So,
Okay. And you also have art available still on Larkin Art Co. if you want to
oh
buy
yeah,
some
yeah.
pieces.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yes. Oh yeah. So I'm also like, I write children's book. One of my latest books is called the thing about bees. It's a love letter between a father and a son, and his sons, me and my sons get chased around from bees the whole time. But really, the bees is really an allegory for fear, for dealing with fear. Love will conquer fear is this sort of the theme of the book that's there. And again, this idea of pausing to sort of understand what's there. The more that we learn about a thing, the more that we can appreciate it and make space for it. And so in that book, we learn about bees so that we can sort of get over our fear. And it's a real authentic book. I'm petrified of bees, but the experience is beautiful. I also kind of, like you said, I'm a painter. So, I have larkinart.co. I couldn't afford the M. So larkinart.co. You could see some of the paintings that I do that really sort of fall in the same theme as well. So, yeah, Angel, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Shabazz. Like I said, this was one of my favorite episodes today. I just got so much value out of this, and I hope that you did too. If you like this, you already know what I'm going to ask you. Please share this with a friend or someone you think could get some value out of it. They don't have to be your friend, a family member, anyone that helps the podcast grow. Also, downloading the episode, subscribing, following the podcast, commenting, rating, reviewing, all of it means so much to me. I'm always grateful every time I see a new review or a new follower pop up. It all just means so much, and I'm really grateful when you do it, so just don't stop. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see y'all probably later this week. I think I'm going to record a solo, so hold me to it. All right, talk soon. Bye. Have a great week.